now that Microsoft has unfortunately laid off 1,900 staff, can they keep up their good guy underdog image? Xbox may be in third position, but Microsoft is a $3 trillion company. Shame that this had to come after a great direct last week.
Was Microsoft ever considered the underdog? Surely
not Microsoft, but I think during all the Activision acquisition stuff,
right.
like Phil Spencer and Xbox's whole a whole way they navigated that was like, we're just little old Xbox and we can't fight PS5 and Nintendo.
Little old Xbox. It's like we just bought the biggest games publisher and developers known to man, but we're just little.
Well, that was the thing. Their whole thing during that entire legal process was literally just saying we're terrible at this. Like, look how many exclusives we don't have, etc. And then their whole thing was like this sort of, we just care about the gamers. We're just trying to make sure everybody can play Call of Duty anyway. Don't worry about it. And a lot of that happened. And then obviously, they've essentially laid off about 10% of their overall, part of Microsoft gaming.
I was just thinking as well. Actually, you're totally right on how they've crafted that image because what was it? Was it Jim Ryan who was in charge of PlayStation during that period of time? Like, there was a person that could not hate the player base more and just see them as like as cash little piggy banks running around. So of course they look like the underdog compared to a literal black puddle of oil. Like,
that's very true. But the way that it's all shaken out, where it was like this deal was supposed to be, like a new lease on life for like Blizzard and Activision, and even like Mikey Barra's left Blizzard, who I think is one of the founders, but he's definitely one of the veteran staff. And it just seems like right now, as we're recording this, it's in the aftermath of that decision. But a lot of devs just saying, I only just found out within like half an hour that I'm losing my entire team.
It's a shocking state that this is where we're at now, where we are probably at the highest point of profitability the video game industry has ever been in, and we are seeing the fewest people being there to actually run it. Like, I'm not saying that this is like calling the doomsday bell for like the AI generation is going to come in and take these people's jobs or anything. I'm not going down that route, but I do think that it's genuinely sad that clearly some bloated sales figures here and there, projects spiraling out of like cost budgets and stuff like that, has likely caused these people their jobs. And again, it goes back to what Scott and I always say: the customer should not foot the development bill, but neither should the developers. It's so sad. You've got Microsoft, who should be one of the most stable companies in this entire industry, seeing as they are front and center of PC and PC gaming with their amazing Xbox Game Pass service. Why are we losing these jobs? Like, what's going on?
The fact that like Insomniac lost people after Spider-Man, that was broken AF as well. Like, Sony are in this pool as well, and obviously the Microsoft side of things. It is interesting looking over at Nintendo, because apparently they've had reduced CEO salaries ever since Satoru Iwata took a huge pay cut like about 10 years ago because the Wii U was such a failure. Apparently he notably reduced his wage to give it to the developers to keep them going. And he had this great quote, which I don't have on hand, but it was a great quote about how people who are stressed out and worried about maintaining their jobs will never make great games.
No, of course not.
And
how could you? This is meant to be a fun experience. This is meant to be bringing dreams to life. And if you're sitting there thinking, I might not even get to the end of the month at the moment, then I wouldn't be looking at my computer screen with joy. I'd be probably firing up a load of CVs to get ready to print out. And I feel like, why isn't that approach being taken? And admittedly, I don't have the information to hand whether or not it actually has. But why haven't the Jim Ryans and the Phil Spencers done the same to keep their staff going?
Well, that's the overall thing with like, how can we have such a, like last year was like this great year for gaming in terms of the amount of games that came out, the variety and everything else. But anything that was bigger that sold, it seems like the majority of that profit went straight to the top and not to the developers themselves.
That's a real shame.
And then they just go, well, why don't we just reduce the headcount anyway, and then we can profit a bit more that way. It seems very vulturous, to make a word.
Well, if you think about it, like if you keep your costs down across the board there, you've got some notable developers that have been sucked into the wider mass. As cynical as this sounds, there's always going to be new development houses that are making great games on a budget that is a fraction of the price of the AAA stuff. And these people like Microsoft, PlayStation, Nintendo, they're going to look at it and be like, well, we'll just buy you out. It's actually cheaper to buy you out, get your idea, make a quick buck off of you, and then just fold you into the mass to get you working on the AAA, and then we'll just squirt you out whenever it doesn't seem to be profitable. They're just going to keep eating.
Well, that's the thing. There's another comment from Kuzo, who sent in, more layoffs in the industry are are good because developers become free to work on in fresh games independently rather than sacrifice their energy to feed the soulless cash cows of your Halos, FIFAs, etc. I don't necessarily agree with that one-to-one, but I get the sentiment.
They've got a point there. I know that it's a very optimistic way of looking about it. Like if Scott and I lost our jobs tomorrow, I don't think that we would be incredibly happy about the situation. But
it might eventually work out, but you've still got to deal with...
Once that settles and the hunger grows to try and actually make money out of the thing that we're passionate about, we probably would bounce back and look at it as a positive opportunity to do what we want to do. Mm-hmm. But with developers, it's... Where are the what's it called? The things that they have? When you have a collection of people that are governed by somebody else.
A union?
Union. My God, I should not have taken that long to think of the word union. Like if there was things like that to protect them, to move them into the right places, to make sure that these people are kept in work, to keep doing what they do well, then that would be at least something. But I don't know if those avenues exist at the moment.
There was. I haven't been keeping up with the amount of different outlets that are reporting on this, but there has been mention of various people who are in unions not being as affected as others.
Okay.
But at the same time, on a long enough timeline, you would hope that the people who are talented manage to go forward, they make other studios. It's just the fact that this shouldn't have happened in the first place. Like you said, it should be a safe place to work, a reliable place to work. You shouldn't be waking up in the morning realizing you and your entire team have been laid off. Like Blizzard's next game has been cancelled. Apparently they were making this big wide open survival game or something, and that's been cancelled entirely, and that entire team's either been displaced or let go with them, like I said, with Mikey Barra leaving. So it's like you do have that reality of imagine just losing your job and the amount of things that you were relying on money wise, like inflation sky high. Like it sucks. Like on a long enough timeline, there's a hope that thing works out, but a lot of people are already tweeting about now I can't afford my medication I was going to get later in the month.
You're basically looking at maybe the money going to 50 people at the top who are just claiming such incredibly large bonuses that make your eyes water. Mm-hmm. Why can't somebody up there just go there's a shred of humanity left in me, maybe I can go without buying a second island to this year.
Well, that's the thing, and the amount of money that Bobby Kotick had, and obviously when he was on the way out after everything
golden
that
handshake
done,
that he probably got as well,
yeah, and it's just it's a tale as old as time in terms of the people at the top hoovering up the most money, but I feel like it's so brazen right now, maybe because of just the sheer spotlight that's on all of it because of social media and the conversations that happen, and everyone can get out there and tell their story, but it's more brazenly, nakedly ridiculous than it's ever been, and especially when it's this many people being affected on a week-to-week basis. It was over 10,000 people lost their jobs last year. Apparently over 5,000 people have lost their jobs so far this year, and we're only at the end of the first month. It's crazy.
Yeah, it's a real shame. And if anyone who is listening to this podcast is in this situation, my heart goes out to you, because it is a genuine shame, and I wish that there was more things in place to prevent this from happening in the first place. Also, it's sad.
Please reach out. My DMs are open anyway, but you can always comment on stuff. We'll put another question tweet out next week. But if you want any stories told, please feel free to reach out. We'd happily know more about the reality of what's going on.
Yeah, because Scott and I always campaign for transparency within the industry. So if there is something going on, if there's any nefarious stuff, or even if you want to just talk about the good times that you had there and how much you miss it, then please, reach out. I'd love to actually hear about it.
Yeah, it would genuinely be an honor to hear from people who are across the industry.